Today we have the pleasure of speaking with Dr. Phil Lazarus, the 41st president of the Florida Association of School Psychologists. Welcome, Dr. Lazarus.
Thank you, Denise. I'm very happy to be here today.
Great. We're very happy to have you. And we are at the 46th annual conference at the World Golf Village Renaissance Resort in St. Augustine, where you have been a presenter. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your presentations?
Yes. Well, I did a poster presentation with my students, and it was about creating a vision in terms of school psychology as it related to social justice. And so we started a social justice subcommittee of our School Psychology Student Association, and it's really been an exciting time for school psychology at Florida International University. And we're focusing a lot of our energies on promoting social justice within the community and within our profession. And I did another presentation in regard to violence prevention and social policy and public health. And that was a 2-hour CE presentation, and it went very, very well. And we're looking in terms of different models, in terms of how we can dissipate and mitigate violence. And then also, I developed with a colleague of mine, Michael Sokowski, a 3-pillar model for creating safe and supportive schools. And
Excellent.
so I presented that model to the association, and it's partially based upon a book that Dr. Sokowski and I had written, which was called Creating Safe and Supportive Schools and Fostering Students' Mental Health.
Nice. And are you in the process of writing another book?
Yes, I'm writing another book. That's an edited book with Shannon Soldo and Beth Dahl. And Shannon, as you well know, is professor at the University of South Florida.
Right.
And this book is called Fostering the Emotional Well-Being of Students, a School-Based Approach. And so it's an edited book, and we have all kinds of topics in regard to how to promote student well-being, and it's based upon a dual-factor model of mental health. And we think it's going to be an exciting entry into the field of school psychology. And we're also promoting different ways of providing mental health services to children.
Excellent. Well, we will look forward to reading that book. And you mentioned you're currently a professor at, tell us the university?
Yes, I'm the director of the school psychology program at Florida International University, and I've been doing that for 4 decades.
Excellent. Now, you were president during what year?
I was president of FASP
Right.
during 1997 to 1998.
Okay. Well, let's jump back to that time period and talk about your presidency. Could you tell us what were some of the major events or accomplishments that took place under your leadership as the FASP president?
That was a very, very exciting time for me, and I was fortunate, and I had some level of maturity and at least about 20 years into the profession when I took on that particular position. And we did a number of interesting things with the help of the FASP Executive Board. One was we first had the Children's Service Fund was an ad hoc committee, and that had been started a year before. And we changed that to become a standing committee of FASP. And then during the last Executive Board, we totally changed that altogether, and we put in all the paperwork to make Children's Service Fund, Inc. a standalone 5013C committee. And since that time, we've raised a great deal of money for positive causes within our community, mostly focusing on helping children and families that have encountered traumatic events and difficulties. And so that was certainly a highlight. Another thing that we also did, we brought in the National Association of School Psychologists advocacy team, and we provided advocacy training to every member of the FAST executive board.
Nice.
And so we actually extended one of the executive board meetings by one day to get all this training in. Another thing that we accomplished, I was very much interested in the whole topic of the 7 Effective Habits by Stephen Covey.
I remember him.
And so what we ended up doing was Jean Cash and Patty Del Valle, who was a colleague of mine at the time, and myself presented a 3-hour workshop to the board about the 7 effective habits relating to leadership. And so we had everybody on the same plane, and we were all speaking the same language with the same set of values. And I believe this really helped create a cohesive board, and we really focused so much on setting up situations within the executive board that really made it a win-win situation for everyone. And so I thought that was very, very helpful, and we continued with that. When we had our conference, I thought it would be a really cool idea to start looking at ways to help the community. And so we set up video interviews similar to what we're doing right now.
Right.
The technology obviously wasn't as sophisticated, but we set up a half-hour video information and for the community, and we connected that to the Daytona public school system. Is Volusia County, and so we set up about 3 or 4 different videos. And I remember doing one video with Jean and Scott, and it looked in terms of providing help for victims in the aftermath of tornadoes and hurricanes.
Nice.
And so we were able to take that information and put it on Volusia County television for the school system.
Excellent.
I did a couple of other things too.
Okay, you were busy.
I was really busy. And so what I decided would be a lot of fun would be to make sure we had a student on every single committee of FASP. And so I really focused on every committee to have one student on each committee, getting the students involved.
Right.
And then I was the first person to think that it would be a great idea to have a student lead a committee. So we had the first student leader of a committee, and she led the membership committee. And that worked out really well. I was really very much focused on getting young people involved in the profession. Let's see what else. I also looked in terms of, I thought it was very important for a state organization to look in terms of influencing public policy.
Right.
And so, and it seemed to be something that the executive board didn't totally understand until I spent a lot of time individually talking to each member. And then what we decided to do was to set up a ad hoc committee in regard to public policy in my first executive board meeting. And then at the last executive board meeting, we made that a standing committee. And Marty Levine actually led that effort, who was a supervisor in Broward County Public Schools.
Right.
And so we moved to have a public policy committee. We increased the membership, and the important thing was I appointed excellent members to the executive board, and so I was very fortunate to select Mary Alice Myers.
Yes, she's great.
Who later became a Willard Nelson Award winner.
Right.
And got her very much involved in the executive board of FASP. I think it's an important thing for a leader to look in terms of finding strong people. And then we increased our membership. And so these are some of the kinds of interesting things that we did. and I'll tell you a teeny bit about the convention, which was also fun.
Okay.
Was that we had a cool theme for the convention, and it was called, it was during Halloween time.
Right.
And so it was, our convention was during Halloween. And so the theme was gypsies, bikers, and shrinks, oh my.
Oh, that's funny.
And we had everybody dress up either as a gypsy,
Mm-hmm.
or as a biker,
Mm-hmm.
or as a shrink.
Oh.
And that really made it a lot of fun. And so we ended up doing that. And we also had a run on the beach every year, because we were right
Nice.
on the beach.
Right.
And so we had I think it was a 1 mile run on the beach. And these are some of the important kinds of things that we did during my presidency. But I was very fortunate in terms that I had a wonderful president in front of me, who was Gene Cash, and then a wonderful president that followed me, who was Bill Donaldson. And so we were all able to work very much together in tandem.
Well, you certainly did have incredible people in front of you and behind you, and it's very interesting that 3 in a row, Gene Cash, you, and Bill Donaldson, are all Willard Nelson Lifetime Achievement Award winners. And we're going to talk more about that a little bit later. But I wanted to ask you if there were any challenges that you faced during your tenure as FASP president.
Well, we had a great, well-functioning board, and so that just made everything so easy.
Mm-hmm.
We had one minor challenge when I was kind of moving into FASP presidency,
Right.
in terms that we had a tornado come right through Volusia County, and we had all our materials for the FASP conference stored in one of the schools in Volusia County,
Yes.
and the tornado impacted that school.
Oh,
and
no.
so we thought that we lost all the materials.
Mm-hmm.
What ended up happening was that the room next to where we had all our stuff stored was a computer room, and it was totally destroyed.
Mm.
And yet the room to the next side of it was fine. And so
How amazing.
So we were very fortunate in terms that we didn't lose any materials for the entire conference. It was all the brochures and the conference booklets, and everything we were going to give out could have been destroyed. And we didn't know the status of it because they had to close the school, and we didn't find out the status of our materials until a couple of days before the conference started.
Wow.
Mhm.
Oh, that must have been a pretty tense time.
Right. And so that was a little bit of a challenge. And another minor challenge was, so this was 97, 98. We tried to set up an internet meeting that we'd be able to talk on it, but and we just did a small subcommittee, but the technology wasn't there, so it just we're never able to get it going because we needed, advanced technology to try it. But it was a good try to look in terms of doing interesting things with IT.
Well, were there any other environmental or personal influences or even political influences on your presidency that you'd feel comfortable sharing?
No, I just think that it was a good time for school psychology.
Okay. Well, what would you like to impart to either our constituency or the practitioners or other FAST presidents? What sorts of words or wisdom would you like to share?
Okay. Probably the most important thing that I would like to share to future presidents is that if you feel that this is something you want to do, don't run for FAST president to be president. The most important thing to do is to do president. And so that would be my number one piece of advice. Also, if you are going to be the president, just do a great job. Put all your energies into it.
Mm-hmm.
People don't necessarily become president more than once. So you have one shot, and by the time you leave the position, you want to feel that you gave it your all and that you made a difference. Another kind of thing is if you really want to make something happen, don't necessarily just follow the rules.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you need to break rules in order to make things happen. And so I would say, follow your values. Because a lot of changes don't happen because of rule followers. Quite often changes happen as it relates to rule breakers.
Okay.
Another thing that I thought was very, very helpful that I did during my presidency,
Mm-hmm.
and I really focused on mental health needs of children,
Right.
and that was my major focus, was that write in the FASP newsletter different articles that focus on your particular theme.
Mm-hmm.
So I did that before I took on the office and during my presidency, so I always had an article that focused on the emotional needs of children and youth in our schools. And I had a 3-part series, and I thought that was helpful. Another thing is if you have a particular goal,
Right.
appoint an ad hoc committee.
Mm-hmm.
And an ad hoc committee can be like for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. And then if it's something important, then it can become a permanent committee, or it can merge, that theme can merge with another committee.
Right.
So for example, I talked to our current president, Angel Canto,
Right.
about either merging a committee or starting a committee in regard to social justice, because that's something that's really high on our priority
Yes, it is.
as NASP.
Mhm.
And I said we really should look in terms of doing that, especially in these very difficult and bifurcated times in which we're living. And I think the social justice piece energizes people, and we've seen a lot of social injustice within the last 3 years that we really need to combat. So I think that's something else. Also, I think you're going to learn a lot as a president. You'll learn a lot about leadership. You'll learn a lot about yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll learn a lot about pulling people together towards a common theme. Also, have fun.
Mm-hmm.
And also, not you just have fun, but make sure your executive board has fun. Because when people, get together, you want to put a lot of humor in there and a lot of laughs, and set aside people to really enjoy themselves. I think that really makes a difference. And then when you leave office, look in terms of mentoring future folks
Right.
to enter the profession, and try and find people that you believe would be good leaders. You can never tell where that might end up going. You may end up appointing someone that becomes a Willard Nelson Award winner.
Right, which you did.
Which I ended up doing.
Yes.
And, so these are some of the, major things that I would impart upon someone becoming a future leader of the association.
Excellent suggestions. Could you tell us a little bit about what being a FASP president meant to you personally?
Well, it was a very, very important thing in my career. It seemed to be a pretty big deal.
It is. It's a very big deal.
At the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it taught me about how to pull together a group of people and collaborate with them, help them energize themselves, and come up with positive projects that they could do to help move the profession forward. And it taught me better leadership skills And I also learned Robert's Rules of Order, very, very well.
Right.
So I was able to make sure that we follow the Robert's Rules of Order, and sometimes that makes a difference in terms of, especially later on in my career, in terms of making sure that I was able to have my vision appear. Other kinds of things is to collaborate with personnel, and what I really gained was a lot of enduring friendships, and so that was something that was very, very important to me. Mm-hmm. And so each year I come to FASP and I meet friends that I've had while sitting on the executive board, and so that was very, very helpful. And also I think I gained a better sense of self-efficacy, and that really made a difference. And so that was able, and all these skills I learned were able to take me to another level, as I ended up running for NASP president, and eventually, when I ran the first time, was elected to the presidency of NASP. And so I think to become a president of NASP, being a president of a state organization is a wonderful way to learn, because obviously that organization of 25,000 people is bigger than our organization, about a little bit less than 1,000. And so these were some. I got a lot. I got more out of it than I gave.
Excellent. And you are truly an inspiration, and actually one of the select few in our organization who has been awarded the Willard Nelson Lifetime Achievement Award. So tell us a little bit about how that impacted you, and maybe even what we already kind of have an idea of what you did to get that award, but just tell us a little bit about that.
Well, that was very, very touching. I was very surprised. It was not an award at the time that had been given out lightly. There was only a few recipients of that award before I was honored by the Lifetime Achievement Award. And of course it made me feel old. So, it was my lifetime of stuff, and I figured, I got another lifetime to go. So that was, it kind of gave me a self-reckoning there. And then, in addition, when I got the award, I was fortunate that I received the award at the General Assembly, and it gave me an opportunity to give maybe a 12 or 15-minute talk in terms of how we need to do a heck of a better job to advocate for the emotional well-being and the mental health of our nation's youth. So it also gave me a clarion call to share with the membership, as well as my gratefulness for being given this prestigious honor.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Lazarus, for all this information and for all your service to FASP and to the students of Florida and the families and everything that you have done. It's truly an honor to speak with you today on November 8th, 2019 in St. Augustine. Thank you again.
And thank you for having me.